Oh, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, moms and dads. Hello. Kate's here again. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you've not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe and also click on the notification bell on the right hand side so you can be notified each time I come online. On this platform, we talk about a whole lot of things. We talk about immigration issues that has to do with immigration matters for those who are based in the UK or planning to come into the UK, family law, employment law. We touch about things that has to do with child abuse, what the UK law says, which I think also is applicable to some other jurisdictions, even though there are different laws that governs children and maybe somewhere in the United States or somewhere around Europe. But basically, there's a fundamental. The fundamentals is obviously to be sure that there are agencies in place who protect the rights of children because they are so young and not able to protect themselves because they don't have a voice. So that is actually what we're going to discuss on this platform today. And obviously, this platform is an eye opener because we're going to talk sharing true life stories. Even though sometimes we might not use the names of the people involved and all of that, but we're going to share those stories to help to empower people as much as possible. So if you have a story you think you want to share, you want to contact me. So obviously we can discuss the way forward. If you want the world to hear about your stories, you've had a bad experience, maybe you've found yourself in a bad relationship or you're a victim of domestic violence, if there's something you think you want the world to know about, maybe to help others, to empower them, get in touch with me, send me a DM message, and then we'll take it up from there. Today, I'm going to talking about. Sorry, beg your pardon. I'm going to be talking more about child abuse and the areas of neglect. Sometimes physical abuse, sometimes issues that has to do with neglecting a child. In my previous video, I think I touched on that. I touched on these issues of physical abuse, which most times we actually interpret to mean that we are disciplining the child. Indirectly, we don't know that we are damaging the child. So attention must be brought to also for people who are relocating. Let's say, for example, you are relocating from one country to the other. Please find out what laws are applicable and what are the provisions of the law, especially when it comes to the relationship you have with your children and how your rights as a parent also and your parenting right and the things, the do's and don'ts, what you shouldn't actually do to a child. The reason why is a lot of people, a lot of parents have relocated here with intention to build a better life for themselves and their children, and they ended up because of their conduct, either knowingly or unknowingly, they end up losing their children to the system, and the children are taken. Once the family is brought to the attention of the children's services, the police are called in, and there are evidences to show that the child has been abused, either physically, mentally, or maybe due to neglect. The child is not only if they have more than one child in that family, the whole children are taken away. Even if there are two or three or four, they're taken away and they are put into care. And then you see the parents attending one meeting or the other just to now see how to save that child. And most times it becomes a long legal battle, and you realize that sometimes the parents don't even have money to take on a qualified solicitor, and then sometimes it even affects the relationship between the mom and dad, and you just see the whole family being torn apart. So to be forewarned is to be before, and it's better to actually prevent it rather than to find yourself in that situation and you are running helter skelter and not knowing what to do. I still believe strongly that the best place a child should be raised should be in the home where the mom and dad are present to kind of raise that child properly, to give that child the stability that the child needs in order to be able to grow up to become a responsible adult, so to say, who perhaps is expected to be balanced and to be stable emotionally and psychologically, rather than taking the child from one foster carer to the other. And a lot of times, you find out that these children are also even abused in the by the foster parents and all of that. You see, and the children end up becoming very very unstable and very very agitated, not balanced emotionally and everything. And this brings me to the story I have to tell today, about a young woman who walked into my. I actually raised my head and I saw somebody standing at the door. It was past closing hours, so I was in the office alone, and I was working extra hours because I needed some things to sort out. And then I saw this young girl, so to say. By my calculation, she looked like as if she was a 16 or 17. And I saw her peeping from, so I went and I said, "How can I help you? We've actually closed." She said, "Oh, can I please see the solicitor? It's urgent." And I looked at her and I knew she was quite young and I suspected that she was pregnant. So, like, I said, "Okay, come in." She came in and she was very unstable, standing there, very, very unstable. So I said, "How can I help you?" She said, "Oh, she's here to see the solicitor." So I said, "I'm the solicitor." She said, "Oh, okay. Oh, can she share something?" And I said, "Well, sit down." She was still very unstable, and the way she sat down, and so she started telling me this story about how they were in Nigeria, and the dad later left and came to the UK, and after that, they were with their mom, she and her sister, and later the dad somehow, through some other agent, brought them in, and they were now living with their dad in one room apartment, and it was very uncomfortable. Not like most times, their dad was always working, and each time he was home, he would always physically abuse them, hit them. According to her, like he was always hitting her head on the wall, even the sister, and all of that. And this went on for so long. And unfortunately for the dad, one day she was just kind of sharing her experiences with her friend, whose mother happens to be a social worker. And that friend took the story home, and this was how the authorities, and this was brought to the attention of the authorities, and the police and the social services were called. And then it was so immediately they invited the dad, interviewed him, and arrested him, and then took her and her sister, and they were carrying out all kinds of tests, taking them from one hospital to the other, carrying out all kinds of tests, all kinds of scanning their heads, scanning their chest, all kinds. They were looking for injuries everywhere and all of that. According to her, they were also, again, this is where I'm a bit apprehensive, where because the role of a social worker, especially with these children's services, like it's a wonderful role that should actually help to sort out problems in a family, to see how families can be helped in case they are struggling. Like in this case, it will appear that the father of these girls, the man was struggling and everything. Imagine living with two girls in one room, and he was always walking back to back, and all of that. But what I would have expected was for the children's services to come in fine and then see how they can support the family, to say, okay, how can we be of help to you and everything. And then maybe send them for parental classes and everything. But they didn't do that. They came in and just tore the family apart. So took these two girls, were looking for evidences, going for scan and everything. according to this girl, she told me that, as a matter of fact, they were kind of leading her on, telling her what to say and what not to say in court to implicate their father. And they promised her that they were going to obviously be there for her. They were going to give her the best of accommodation. They were going to send, they were promising her a whole lot of things. And then she tagged along with them. She said she went to court. She bore false witness against her father and everything. And to this day, she didn't even know what happened to her father. She didn't know whether he was deported, because it will appear that the man also was having immigration problems and everything. She said she couldn't really be bothered. But looking back now, that she regretted that she actually tagged along with the social workers, because they actually made her tell a lot of lies against her dad just to implicate her dad. So they took her and the sister, and they put them first in care of a foster carer. And after some time, they separated them, and they took her to another foster carer and took her sister somewhere else. And she didn't see her sister for a long time. And again, that was again very traumatic, because the only family member who she actually knew then, because obviously she had lost touch with her dad, now they separated them again. So so the trauma, you understand, the trauma that she and her sister they went through, according to her, before she turned um, before she turned 16, she said they had changed more than 5 different foster carers for her. So I asked her why. She said, well, each time they took her to a new foster carer, she would cause so much trouble there. She said she was doing that on purpose, because she was just seeking attention, because they made her grow overnight to become an adult. So she was just seeking attention. There was no father, there was no mother. So she kept on causing trouble, and then they would change her, take her to another. And these different foster carers, they would say there was a time they took her to a different ethnic group. So there was a time they took her to an Egyptian foster carer. Another time they took her to to an Indian foster carer, and she kept on kind of, all of that brought about a lot of instability, because she would now have to learn their culture, the food that they were serving in those homes and everything. So it was really quite traumatic. And then when she turned 16, she said, so I said, okay, so who is responsible for your pregnancy? She said, oh, she had a boyfriend that they now gave her a hostel where she was staying. I think when she turned, is it 18 or so? So she was staying in the hostel, and then she now had this boyfriend, and then who impregnated her, and then now, so I said the reason why she came is that now they are threatening or telling her in advance that they were going to take the baby into care, because they didn't think she was stable enough to be able to parent that child. So now, this is what apparently, now I asked her, do you know where is your dad? She said she doesn't know whether he was deported. The dad actually didn't want to have anything to do with her and the sister. Were you able to go through school? She said no, she dropped out of school because she was so emotionally unstable. She couldn't even cope. She couldn't go to school, and they were taking her from one foster carer to the other. So she didn't complete. She dropped out of school. So what about your sister? Are you in touch with your sister? She said she didn't know where her sister, because they separated them. And so you see a whole family just kind of separated and destroyed. And look at the dysfunctionality because of one single mistake that the dad made by laying a finger, by smacking the children all under the guise of discipline. If he had known any better, if he had actually understood that the laws here are different from what is obtainable in Nigeria, perhaps he would have been more cautious in in his um, in his approach. And then perhaps his good intention of wanting to be here to bring in the children to have a better life. Perhaps the family would have been together to them. Perhaps these girls, they would have gone to uni or become entrepreneurs or professionals or things like that. You understand? But he lost those 2 children into foster care because obviously he didn't want to understand, or he didn't want to obey the laws. He thought he could bring in the laws in Nigeria into a place where they completely, totally frown at physical abuse of children. So, and I understand that also a lot of times some parents will say, okay, whatever happens behind closed doors in this home stays, it stays in the home. So please be warned, because one day you think you are doing that and the child is not going to speak up. One day the child might just be sharing this experience with their friend or with their work colleague or something, and then you will get into trouble. It is better to abide by the laws of the land. If you know you cannot abide by the laws of the land, it's better you leave, you stay back in a country where you think that there are no laws that governs the way parents manhandle their children. You understand? And I've also had a lot of people talking, being cynical about saying, oh, in the UK, it is the children that control their parents. The parents don't have a right to discipline their children. That is not true. That is not true at all. That is not true. Even in Africa, where we beat and we batter and we kick and we call names and we use belt and everything, children still derail. They still go into drugs. They still go into binge drinking. They will still have teenage pregnancies occurring in schools. We still have all kinds of cults, practices. Even I heard that now they do it street by street, even outside the schools, even in secondary schools now. So I strongly believe that violence is not the best way to resolve conflict. Violence is not the best way to raise a child. The best way to raise children is to set good examples and also to let them know that you love them. If you teach a child love, if you raise a child with love, anytime you're talking to that child, the child will want to listen, because the child understands that the only reason why you are talking is because you are trying to shape them, you're trying to guide them, to counsel them as a parent. But when most of the times what you do to your child is what anything that comes out of your mouth is criticism, being critical, being cynical, being verbally abusive, always harsh, not giving the child even an opportunity to express themselves. The parent is always right. You are not even sometimes able to show your vulnerability by apologizing to your child when you are wrong, because the parent is not always right. As a parent, you're not always right. There will be days when you will offend your child. Be humble enough to apologize. In doing that, you are teaching that child humility. You are teaching that child about how to say they are sorry when they are sorry, when they obviously offend or they err, even in their own subsequent future relationships. So we need to parent by giving a good example. Set a good example. Keep to your words. Let your words be your bond. When you promise a child you're taking them on holidays, please keep to your words. If it did not happen, maybe something happened that you're not able to take them on holidays, sit them down and explain to them the reason, and then let them know in the future when you are going to fulfill that promise. That way, it builds the child's confidence. Hug your children. Learn the habit of hugging your children. Tell them, be vocal. Tell them you love them. Be vocal, express love and affection, and also teach them how to also express love and affection, even between siblings. By hugging, when you hug a child, you're building the child's confidence. You're making the child understand that you love and care for them, and that they are appreciated and wanted. So it helps to build the child's morale, to build the child's self-confidence. If all you say to a child every time you are criticizing, every time you are correcting, every time, you are not building the self-confidence of that child. You are making the child actually feel that there's nothing good about him or her. Remember, you are their first role model. So the moment you step into Heathrow or Gatwick, you come into the UK, know that the laws here is strictly against hitting children, beating up children, using belt, calling them names, screaming, shouting, or even neglecting a child that is less than 10 years, leaving the child alone in the house and walking across to say you are going to get groceries. Your neighbors will call the police on you and they will pick up that child. And then you start a battle, a legal battle with the authorities. And then you start running helter skelter. Because the purpose why you are here is not to lose your children to the system. The purpose why you are here is to have a better life. So the only way you can do it is to abide by the laws of the land. If you don't know, you ask questions. And before you attend meetings, in case your family is brought to the attention of the police or the social services, before you attend meetings, before you start answering questions, please just tell them, seek the advice of a qualified solicitor. Seek the advice of a qualified solicitor, because a lot of families, they've gotten into trouble by not seeking the advice of a qualified solicitor. You would think that sometimes the social workers, you think that they're trying to help you and they're leading you on. They will make you say things that ordinarily you're not supposed to say, because they want to be in the good books of their supervisors or their managers. But they don't really care that what they are doing is affecting life, is affecting children. What will you gain if a child is taken away from the mom and dad and they're put into the hands of strangers? What will you gain as a social worker? What's the benefit to you? And this has given a lot of social workers a kind of bad name. People don't trust them anymore. So your role as a social worker is to see that families are integrated, that if there is a need, if there is a need that brings about the negligence or anything like that, the families can be supported so that they can be together as a family rather than ripping the family apart. There are cases where they even start questioning the wife of a man to say, oh, is he abusing you? Is he abusive? Has there been violence and everything? Tell us, we'll work with you, blah, blah, blah. Trying to lead the woman on to incite her against her husband, only with the intention just to rip the family apart. This is this is not right at all. The best place a child should be raised should be within where they have their mom and dad. At least, even if the dad is not present, let there be one parent present in the life of the child, not for the child to be raised by strangers, where they are also abused, where they are not taken care of, where they are being, obviously, where the foster carer is in charge of the child's life as a form of business. So there's no correction, there's no training, nothing. They just allow the child to do as they please because they want the child to continue to remain because they just need to be paid at the end of every month. And then later the child becomes a problem in the community. There's no need for that. I'm saying this also because obviously, thankfully, there are some social workers, they are so diligent, so professional. They help families. If you are that social worker, I'm saying thank you to you. Just get on with it. Thank you very much. God bless you for your good work. But also there are some bad eggs in the social services that I don't know what they actually derive from making sure that families are separated. And once they are called, a family is brought to their attention, they refuse to leave until they rip that family apart. They conjure lies, they make children tell lies to, just to expand the whole incident just to be able to take the children away from their parents. That is not right at all. Because at the end of the day, you are saying you are taking the child away from abuse. You go and put the child into foster care where they are even abused sexually and not taken care of at all. So help to support families. That's your role. Help to look at what are they, I know you have a template. There's a template that a lot of these social workers, they want to follow. But remember, you are not dealing with animals. You are even animals have rights. You're dealing with humans. You're dealing with the future of the children. You're dealing with families. They need to be together. A situation whereby sometimes a teacher sees that a child is wearing a damp clothing, and then the teacher calls in social services, and they come and they take the child and every other child in that family just because the child is wearing a damp cloth or a rumpled cloth, and you say it's negligence. Why not sit the family down and find out, do they have a problem? Are they jobless? Are they homeless? Are they squatting? And see how you can support the family to provide them with all the necessary things that they need. Why not assign the family with a support worker to do home visits, to give them a second chance, to send them out for parental classes and all of that so they can learn more and become better parents, rather than ripping the family apart and taking the children and putting them in the care of strangers. As a social worker, you need to do your work. You need to do your work diligently to help families. To help families. It's very, very important. So for parents out there, especially African parents in diaspora, the laws in the UK is against you hitting your child. I know in America and all over Europe, it is the same thing. Be careful. If the law is against it, the law is against it. You can't change the laws. That's the law of the land where you are in. So abide by the law by doing the right thing. Don't hit your children. Don't say the Bible says spare the rod and spoil the child. There's nowhere in the Bible where it is there's no prophet or nobody in the Bible of the prophets of old that it was ever seen that they used whip and they were flogging and hitting their child. The Bible literally sparing the rod and spoiling the child. What it literally means, that rod is a rod of correction, the rod of discipline. It doesn't mean that you have to hit your child and kick your child and call the child names. No, it's saying discipline the child. Chastise the child. Start early enough. Set good examples. Let the child watch you as an example. So when you are a parent and all the child sees you do, especially as a father, is to beat up the mother and everything, what good example are you going to set for the child? If you're a parent, you don't keep to your words. You tell the child, you promise them that you are taking them on holidays, and then when that time comes, you disappoint. What good example are you setting for them? When you're a parent and you just abandon the children and you run away for 8 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 months, and you come back, there's no apology, there's no explanation. The children, you just left the children in limbo. What good example? How are you as a parent going to be able to sit up to even discipline that your children? Because even as an adult, you need help also, because you are showing them that you are reckless, that you are not accountable, you are not trustworthy, you are not dependable. You can run away as you please. The children are not important to you. So what good example are you going to set as a parent? So these are the things we need to parent through exemplary behavior, so that we can look straight on our children's faces to say, do this. I don't want, this is wrong. This is wrong. We don't want to be judged or questioned by our children. Lead by example. Lead by example as a mother. Lead by example as a father. Always lead by example. That's the only way we can break the cycle of domestic violence. Stop hitting that child. Stop calling that child names. Stop using belts. Apart from the children, stop beating up your wife. Stop hitting and dragging her down the stairway and everything. It is against the law. You are going to put the whole family into trouble. The day the woman calls the police comes there, they're going to take you away, or they take the children away, because that's an abusive environment. First of all, they will take the children away to put them in a safe place, to safeguard the children. I don't care how angry you get. I don't care whatever it is the woman has done. There is no justification for violence in your home. Respect the law of the land. Violence against women and children must stop. It is against the law of the land in the UK for you to hit your children, for you to hit your wife, for you to hit your husband. It is against the law. If you go down for GBH, that again will affect your criminal records. And what that means is that there are certain jobs you cannot go near. But once your records, it's there that you have a criminal record for a grievous bodily harm, that's it. You can't work in the care industry. You can't work in the security industry. There are so many where they have to carry out DBS check on you. You can't work in all those sectors. So you've got to be very careful. You've got to be very careful. I hope I'm going to stop here now. I hope the little advice I've given, you're going to deliberate on it. Stop saying to your children, whatever happens here behind closed door, it ends there. One day you're going to get into trouble. Don't put, it's not worth it for you to put your children, to rip your family apart. Be patient. Try and be patient with children because they are young, so the brain is developing. When you say one thing, the next minute they still go back and do the same thing. It's because their brain is still developing. You as an adult, how many times do you listen? How many times do you listen? So if you that is an adult, you don't listen, stop blaming the children. Be patient, be a little bit patient with them. Love the children, give them hugs, tell them you love them. They will listen to you. They will listen to you. Stop hitting and kicking that child. It is against the law. Don't get your family into trouble. Don't get your family into trouble. Please listen. Don't rip your family apart. That's not why you are here. To allow strangers to now raise your children. Don't do that. Don't take that risk. Make sure your children are raised by you and your wife in the family home. Give them that stability that they deserve as children. They didn't ask to be brought into the world. I will end here at this point in time. God richly bless you. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.